center field. Back toward the track. And that ball is gone.
You are listening to the North Shore 9 podcast. Follow them on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Also, make sure to watch NS9 Live every Thursday on Twitch and help support by becoming a patron. Let's go Bucks!
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Starbucks. I am your host, Anthony DiNardo. With me, as always, is Jim Rosati. Jim, welcome to a wonderful Wednesday.
A wonderful Wednesday it is. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So, obviously no Pirates, but we do have a full slate of playoffs. First round's over with. We're in the second round already. I want to ask you one thing real quick off the bat with these playoffs, okay? And the reason I want to ask it is we kind of alluded to it last week when the playoffs were starting and such, how it was kind of like a March Madness feel, like this whole day slated of playoffs, right? What is your take on this format? Is it almost too much baseball? Do you enjoy it?
I do enjoy it. I don't think it's too much baseball. I don't like the 16 teams, right? But I do like this format that they're going with in the divisional series and the championship series, where 5 games in 5 days. I think it accomplishes something that the playoffs should accomplish, and it rewards good teams, like full teams with depth. Whereas, before you could ride 3 pitchers through a playoff series sometimes. Now you can't do that this year, right? I mean, it's gonna take your full rotation. It's gonna take your full bullpen. So I like it. I like it actually. This is one thing that I like, and I wouldn't mind seeing this particular format where they're playing every day. I wouldn't mind seeing this stick.
Interesting. Okay. I'll say this. I do like how you mentioned about the depth, right? Like, you don't have to be a very top heavy team. You don't have to go out there and get 2 really, really good, starting pitchers and just say, well, we can coast through the regular season. Once we get to the playoffs, we're good because we're going to pitch these 2, 3 guys the whole entire time and win the World Series, right? Like, the dynamic of the game changes a lot from the regular season to the playoffs due to that. So now you truly need your depth. That I get. But I'm kind of on the fence about like the amount of games. And I think here's why. March Madness is great. I love it. And I've been, watching less and less basketball over, the time span of my life, I guess. But when it's March, the games are going. I love it. And what I think it makes March Madness so great is basketball. Basketball is so fast paced, right? And I think the action's always going and you can keep up with it, and you have the scoreboard watching and people are going back and forth at different games. Hey, it's tight in this game. Let's focus on, game number 3. And there's been a score change in game number 5. Let's switch over to them. And I think the thing about baseball is you can't really dictate when like runs are going to happen and action's going to come, if that makes sense. When it's 79 to 77, let's tune in this game. But as we saw last night, it could be 4-1. It could be 5-1, and like that, it's now 5-5 on one pitch. And it's like, well, now we missed that action because we're tuning into something like that. So I think you lose out. Like, when it comes to baseball, you kind of want to sit down and watch the entire game and not go back and forth so much as far as action, where in basketball you can do that. So I think that's where I kind of miss out and kind of not as appeal to this type of format in that sense. Like, what we're getting at is, like you said, is it maybe too much baseball? That I kind of agree with. I almost feel as if each game should have its own showcased slot.
Yeah, and I think there's actually a way to do that. Maybe not when it's like an 8-game day like it was yesterday. That's going to be, I guess, the main issue. Because so I do agree with you there. Like, if you're watching something, now my TV setup's a little different where I can watch more than one game at a time. But if you only have one screen,
If
right?
you only have one screen per wall,
if you only have one screen, then I could see how you could you could just feel like you're missing something, right? Because as you mentioned, anything can happen at any time. Baseball is a sport like where it's not like there's no NFL red zone channel for baseball,
right?
because every pitch, like you could score on every single pitch. Whereas a lot of sports aren't always like that. I mean, I guess they are technically, but it's not as not as
It's less predictive of when
yeah,
scoring is going to happen.
yeah.
Like even on NFL red zone, like you might not score a touchdown every time, but you're in the red zone. You're probably going to get at least a field goal. It's more likely that you're going to get any type of points on the board. But like in baseball, you could have bases loaded with no outs. As Pirates fans, they're very familiar with this, and not score any runs. So
yeah.
I think that's part of it.
I guess though, like how many times, like realistically, how many times are you watching like every playoff game anyways? So
Okay.
I guess looking at that, like how many people watch every divisional series game? Like the full game. There's probably not really that many people who do it.
That's a fair point. Up until this year, I pretty much was. I've been really busy this week, but
yeah. But I mean, I think it's probably a very slim.
Yeah, I mean, like you're saying, yeah, probably like the
audience.
casual fan isn't tuned into every single game. They likely have a life.
Yeah, they're tuning into like the prime time game, maybe. But that's it. Like they're not watching the 2:00 Marlins Braves game, right? They're not staying up late to watch the Dodgers Padres, unless you're maybe West Coast. But yeah, I don't know. I see what you're saying there. About like that with the TV standpoint. I don't know. I feel like I like it though, just from the best team has a better chance of winning, I think. And I think that's really ultimately what we want. We want the best team to win the championship. And I think this format actually helps that.
Just by the having to play every day aspect.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, you're gonna have to use more pitching. You're gonna have to use all your starters. You're gonna have to use your full bullpen as opposed to how some teams can ride with those maybe like they have like 3 relievers that they really trust, right? And they can kind of just coast through a series with those 3 guys. Now you can't do that. You're gonna have to use your full bullpen during this.
So not like having Andrew Miller as that weapon in the bullpen that you can just throw out there every game for like 2 innings.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, like I said, it rewards those teams who have built a good team.
Right. Yeah, that's very fair, and I do agree with that absolutely. I do think I like the format in the sense that there are games every day, so it mirrors more of the regular season. It doesn't change. I mean, that was kind of like the issue. Ryan, I feel like always had that issue on this show. September baseball. How, like, why in September do we just now have a 40-man roster? All things change. When it didn't happen for the entire season, and I feel like to the playoffs, that's obviously even a greater degree. You're playing games almost every day. Now you're not. You're saving guys, you're resting guys, so depth doesn't really matter. I mean, you can almost carry like a 15-man roster in playoffs, because there's probably 10 guys that probably hardly ever see any action. Now they absolutely have to. So yeah, I do like how it is more every day. That's really good for baseball, I think, and just again for strategy wise, there's more incentive for teams to have quality depth. And then, but yeah, I think to me again, just the baseball mindset. Just, I don't know. I think I thought having all this baseball would be great, but I almost think it's kind of counterproductive. But to your degree, maybe it's just because we're not so much the casual fan. I don't know. I guess we'll see what our ratings do and how everything comes by once it's done and such.
I will say this though, and this is an issue that I really don't like. And it's something that this postseason, I guess, has almost encouraged because of the way that it is I really dislike all the bullpen usage. And it's just across baseball. Like it, and I'm not one of those people I'm not a quote unquote baseball purist. Like I'm fine with trying new things and seeing what works. But there's this is like it's the death of the starting pitcher. I feel like, you've got like these dominant guys, but how many times have we seen starting pitchers go 2 innings, 1 inning, 2 innings, 3 innings, and then you see this just parade of relief pitchers come in, and it does a couple things. First off, it just completely messes with the flow of the game. Like it takes a long time for all these relief pitchers to go in. If the goal of baseball is to try to condense the game and not drag it out, we need starting pitchers to go more than 2 innings. And I think that's one thing that I am not a fan of. Like I don't like it how, in the Rays Yankees game, there were, gosh, I mean, I'm looking at the box score, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There were 10 pitchers used in that game,
Right.
Between the two teams. And I don't want to see that. I want to see starting pitchers go deep. I want to see it's like I said, it just messes with the flow. It more than anything. Like it's not. I don't want to see a new pitcher every single inning. It takes forever to do that. And I mean, I haven't even looked at the box score of the Padres Dodgers game, but I mean, Clevenger, I could kind of see how the Padres yesterday had to kind of change their thing because Clevenger got hurt after 1 inning.
Right.
But I mean, even the Dodgers, Walker Buehler only went 4 innings. There were I'm looking 14 pitchers used in the Padres Dodgers game.
And like you're saying,
pitchers.
Yeah, I think it was by less design of the Padres. Reading up on that today, Tingler and everything said, like, I guess he more or less felt tight after the first inning, and that's why they pulled him after 2 pitches in the second. So, yeah, I think it's less by design, and they're more forced. But you definitely have a point, and you do see a lot more. And maybe, as we mentioned, how these playoffs expose depth, I guess that's how some teams are going about that and saying, well, we don't have 4 starting pitchers. So let's bullpen a game. And maybe that is what we're seeing.
The Padres used 9 pitchers yesterday.
Yeah.
In a game 1 of a playoff game. Like game 1 of the playoffs, they used 9 pitchers.
Probably doesn't bode too well for your team.
No, like I don't know what they're like it's just a trend that I'm seeing, and it's becoming more of a trend every year.
Yeah.
And that is one thing that I do not like. I do not like that at all. I don't want to see that many pitchers in a game, DiNardo.
And I feel, for one,
yeah.
I think this is definitely another topic to really expand upon another day, because this itself could hijack the entire show. But I feel like this is kind of started back with like the Kansas City Royals days, like the bullpen, and that was like the way to go. We saw the Yankees then expand upon it and almost mimic that with their extremely talented bullpen. And you're right. We're seeing more and more bullpen usage, less and less starters, which in a lot of times I think is wise and smart if done correctly. But as far as a product goes, as a consumer of the game watching it, I definitely see your viewpoint as well. You see a new guy up every single time. You said the change of the flow, of course, the length of time to get all those bullpen pitchers ready. Yeah, exactly, I see that. Yeah. I definitely see that.
And like I said, we won't talk about this the whole time, but it's just I'm not arguing the logic behind it. It does clearly have some benefits to it. I just don't like it as a watcher of the game.
Gotcha.
And I don't really know a way to fix it. Like I don't know a way to fix it because you can't make a rule that says like a starting pitcher has to go 5 innings. Like that rule can't exist,
Right. Because we have no pitchers.
Yeah. So that cannot exist as a rule in baseball, but I don't like it. Don't like it.
I don't like it. Good enough deal. All right. So so we'll move on from the playoffs. Let's go and talk a little bit of Pirates right now. There's some news, even though the Pirates aren't playing right now. For one, I guess let's talk about the front office shakeup, if you may. The Pirates did go ahead and they cut ties with Jim Malone, the strength and conditioning coach, right? They also, I should have had this ready. I want to make sure I get the names right.
There are a few moves. I need to get that in front of me here too.
Right. So their strength coach Jim Malone, their head athletic trainer Brian Housen, and their senior advisor Nick Lavia are all gone. I mean, this isn't like, rule breaking news. It isn't as if, Derek Shelton was replaced by any means. But I do think this is newsworthy in a sense that, obviously we're still cleaning house. In this, I mean, you see the head athletic trainer, you see the strength coach gone. This is a team who has definitely seen its share of injuries, Jim, last year, this year, even though it's a shortened season and things were weird this year. It just seems like there are a lot of injuries, and I know there's a lot of variables. I don't know. I'm not inside the clubhouse. You're not inside the clubhouse. You're not inside of and seeing everything that's going on. You don't know the work ethic of these guys, what they're using, what methods and such. None of us can really dictate and see and say, well, this is clearly why they had to go, even with injuries. Because, I think it's weird with injuries. I mean, people themselves can be more injury prone than others. You can't truly blame that on a, training coach. And also, too, like with injuries, they can kind of be just freak injuries as well. So I'm not going to put every type of injury on a strength coach and conditioning coach and say, well, the Pirates had the most injuries, so therefore you have to go. But there probably is some type of correlation. And again, I think it's pretty clear there's been a lot of injuries on this team over the past few years.
Yeah, and I don't really think that's necessarily all tied to the trainer. I think it's just a lot of it has to do with baseball in general now. I mean, it's not like this isn't a problem confined to the Pirates where people are getting hurt, especially pitchers. I'm actually of the belief that just these injuries are going to happen because these pitchers are throwing the ball so damn hard now. So arms weren't designed to throw 98-mile-an-hour pitches all the time. And I feel like that's just injuries are just going to be a part of that. As velocities just continue to rise and rise and rise, I think you're just going to see more injuries to pitchers. But yeah, I think a lot of the turnover just has to do with last offseason, the Pirates just got such a late start on getting Cherington because it took them so long to kind of do all of this, right? To get Neil Huntington out, hire Cherington. By the time that he was hired, I don't think he really had the opportunity to go in there and do like a full overhaul of the front office staff. So I think that's just what we're seeing now is he's now going to implement the changes that he would have liked to have done last year, that he just didn't have time. Like he needed a few people to be held over from Huntington's, regime just to basically make things run. So I think that's why you see like Larry Broadway being reassigned. That's why you see some of these other guys, being let go. Just because I think it in a normal offseason, I think the stuff would have been done last year. It's just there wasn't time to do it.
Yes, and actually, good point. I totally botched about bringing up Larry Broadway as well. Yeah, he also was a A guy, I don't know, but he said reassigned. Not so much let go and release, but yeah, I mean, not doing his duties anymore. So I'm with you. You know that like, I feel like there was just only so much they could do last year, and you know you can't blame Charrington. You know he couldn't control when he was hired by the Pirates. You know they decided to let go of everyone. I don't know. We talked in that whole debacle last offseason, you know, but
Yeah.
but it is what it is. It's over now, and yeah, like and going back to what I was kind of saying last week too, how important this offseason is, you know, and that's part of it. Like this is finally like his first offseason where he can say this team's mine. You know, here's all the changes, all the moves I want to go with, and he is starting to do it. So you're right. You know, this could also just be less of the team was so injured, these guys got to go, and more of I want to bring in my guys.
Yeah, I think it's more of that than anything. Like I don't think this team would have been any different with Charrington's guys than Huntington's guys. They were bad. So I really think it's just a matter of him getting his guys in there. I really think that's just what this is.
Cool. And as I kind of teased, you know, in our group text about this, who was telling Jim Malone that he's no longer coming back to work? Because that wasn't going to be me. I wasn't going to tell Jim. I would hate to be that person. I could just see Charrington be like, let me find this intern. Hey, I need you to do this for me. I need you to tell Jim not to come back tomorrow. Because that's a bad man.
Yeah. Gosh. I was looking. He's been with the Pirates for a while, hasn't he?
He has.
So
I forget exactly when he came over.
Through,
but
I guess through I guess 2018 is when he was named as so it was 2018. Okay, so it wasn't too long. Yeah, so I mean he's been somebody who's he's been in Major League Baseball, you know, in strength and conditioning forever. So I think that's just a matter of Charrington probably has a guy that he wants in that position, and you know that's I think that's all it is. I don't think there's too much to read into it.
Cool. All right, so after the front office shakeups, we have another little shakeup, Jim. JT Riddle was, well, put it this way, you know, he was DFA'd. He selected free agency. He will not return to the Pirates. Congratulations, JT Riddle. I guess, I don't know. We have a little tribute for him. So let's go ahead and play it here. All the memories, the fond memories of JT Riddle in 2020.
Not hitting for a lot of the key guys.
Thank you, JT Riddle. We appreciate the memories.
Thank you for your service.
Let's go back and revisit this just a little bit. This is where we get a little cynical. You know, hey, he's a guy trying to do his job. I get it. But I never really quite understood the signing to begin with. It was a 1 year, $850,000 deal. It wasn't as if we knew we weren't going to be competitive, right? And this is before, you know, it became a 60 game season and anything can happen. You know, over 162 games, this team was not going to be competitive. We didn't need any more depth, I feel like, in the middle infield with these guys. If you had Cole Tucker, you had Adam Frazier, you had Kevin Newman, you know, obviously was Eric Gonzalez. You know, adding like a JT Riddle to the mix just didn't make any sense to me. But as Parada said, there was at least one scout that thought this guy could be dripping with power one day. We didn't quite see it. So his tenure with the Pirates, he did have 69 very nice plate appearances. He did have 1 home run, 1 stolen base. He batted .149. He had a 4 weighted run created plus. So just 96% below average. and a negative .8 WAR. Yeah, so things didn't go well with JT Riddle, I would say.
No, and like you mentioned before, it was a signing that just was mind blowing. I actually just did a quick Twitter search for all the tweets where I said Riddle. It all starts with January 31st. Okay. Day he was signed, and it started with WTF kind of major league signing is JT Riddle. So that was that. And then I said, my column on JT Riddle.
My column.
He's trash. Thank you for reading.
Okay. Didn't disappoint.
Yeah. So that's what I had to say about the JT Riddle signing to begin with. And the fact that he played 23 games this year, 69 plate appearances. Like, why? Why did he play that much?
That's a good point too. After the fact, why did he? Yeah.
Why did he play that much? I don't like. First off, it was a terrible signing. I get maybe you just need like warm bodies, but they didn't actually really need him at all. Like they had other people who could do just that. That was just, I don't understand that from the get-go. The dripping with power comment was I'll tell you what, if I'm that scout's like employer, like if I'm the major league organization who employs that scout,
right,
I want to know who that is so that I can fire him.
And like that's the thing too. So, and I always, not always, but I mentioned here and there, obviously with me living in Jacksonville, I mean, I do follow the Marlins probably a lot closer than most people. So like JT Riddle, I've actually watched here in Double-A Jacksonville, when he was playing with the Suns and such. So I've kind of seen his career path with the Marlins, minor leagues. And even though he was one of like the top 20, I think, prospects at the time, he was up there on some lists. Like he never really showed too much in the minors either, especially power wise. It was always talked about somewhat, in a fashion. Not this guy was dripping with power, but it could potentially come and such. But it never really did. I mean, he never really hit for power, but also like he was never that productive in the minors. And then he come over to the majors with the Marlins and, didn't show pretty much anything with them. Like this is my mindset. And it's going to be funny now talking about it because here the Marlins are playing in the second, series of the playoffs against the Braves right now. But my thing was, the Marlins were a bad team last year and they weren't going to be a good team this year. Although some things worked out in their favor. They made some trades. When the Marlins don't need a JT Riddle, when the Marlins look at their player and say, you're not even good enough to make our roster, that probably tells you something, especially on a team that picked number 3 overall last year. And, like you said, so the Pirates picked him up. It was a major league deal. It was decent money, $850,000 for a position that didn't need. I just, again, it kind of boggled me. Unless it's maybe one of our scouts. Maybe it's our guy that needs fired. Maybe they talked to Charrington and was like, listen, I'm breaking this guy down. He could be dripping with power one day. Let's make this deal. That's all I can see. It's almost like the Eric Gonzalez thing where, the scouts saw something and they wanted to try to bring it out because it's never been there before. And maybe the Pirates thought they could do it. And clearly they didn't. And maybe it's just simply the fact that he's not that good of a baseball player.
Clearly they didn't. I think that's
clearly.
Yeah. The one thing that he had going for him this year was his versatility. But even if you look at that, he was terrible everywhere you put him.
Yes.
So he was awful. Like he was awful all around. He couldn't hit, he couldn't field. He was a bad baseball player. Like he was just really, really bad. And I don't really know other way to put it. Like, I mean, yeah, he's a major leaguer. He played Major League Baseball, but he was terrible.
And just put those numbers out there too, because I did have those prepared. So he did start 10 times at third base, 3 errors. He started 2 times at shortstop, 1 error. I mean, those are just errors. We're not even going like in advanced metrics and stuff. Like just a plain flat out error, right? He basically 3 in 10 starts at third, right?
And I think
One and two starts at short.
What made the third base starts even more frustrating is that like he did that all while Brian Hayes was just like sitting in Altoona.
Right. Which we saw what Brian Hayes did.
Right.
And, if you heard us talk about it, I mean, I think obviously like the numbers support that Brian Hayes is a NL Rookie of the Year, but it's like the plate appearances don't support that. That's where his downfall is. It's only this many games. If JT Riddle wasn't here, maybe Brian Hayes gets caught up earlier, and now he is the Rookie of the Year. So that's how those dominoes could have felt for
that's true. Yeah, JT Riddle's not here. Brian Hayes is probably up 2 weeks earlier, at least. And who knows? Who knows what happens at that point?
And imagine being Brian Hayes and thinking, like, the reason I'm not here is because of that guy. And I'm watching him every night on TV as well. And I'm seeing, I don't know what I'm seeing. Not a baseball player. I mean, he's poor offensively, poor defensively, and it's like, and here I am stuck in Altoona because of this guy. Ugh.
Weighted runs created plus of 4 is pretty bad.
Pretty bad. That's the range. Right. Pretty bad.
That is pretty bad. I'm actually going to look real quick to see where that ranks among.
It's kind of impressive.
At least we'll go with at least 60 plate appearances.
That's fair.
Over the season. Weighted runs created plus. All right. Are we ready for this?
Let's do it, Jim.
JT Riddle. Out of players with at least 60 plate appearances, the third worst hitter in baseball. There are actually two people worse. Jose Garcia of the Reds, who was a late season call-up, and who I think is only like 19 years old too. And Oscar Mercado. So Mercado had a pathetic he had a bad year.
But that says a lot. I mean, the third worst player in baseball, basically, offensively.
Third worst. Yep.
With a solid amount of plate appearances.
Third worst. You know who was even better at sixth worst was
who's that?
John Ryan Murphy. John Ryan Murphy had him beat by quite a bit, actually.
So there you go. JT Riddle, not as good as John Ryan Murphy.
I'm actually looking at this, and then fifth worst. Jeez, there were 3 Pirates in the bottom 6.
Number one pick, baby.
John Ryan Murphy was 6th worst. JT Riddle was 3rd worst. Gerard Dyson was 5th worst.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Yep. Oh man.
What a year. Man.
What a year.
Kind of. I mean, there's no more Pirates baseball. That is sad, but in the same sense, like, I'm kind of thankful this was only a 60-game season because we got that out the way. We secured the number 1 spot, and then the draft order. Like, okay, good. We got what we needed. Let's move forward now. Let's think ahead, and we're afforded that ability now, opposed to still watching 102 more Pirates games. So JT Riddle, no longer.
We were blessed. We were blessed to have the 60-game season.
Hashtag blessings.
Hashtag.
So no more. I mean, potentially no more. Who knows? Maybe he resigns next year. We don't know. But as of right now, he's a free agent. He's allowed to sign with anyone he wants to, as long as they're willing to sign him. All right. So move on from JT. Another little house cleaning here. I mean, not so much. I mean, he's not really with the Pirates anymore, but I mean, I think he deserves to be talked about. So Francisco Cervelli has announced his retirement officially. He was, unfortunately, he was with the Marlins, who are in the playoffs, but couldn't finish out the season because he did have another concussion. Quite frankly, I mean, that's why the Pirates let him go, because of the concussions he had with the team. And they said, we're not going to play you at, catcher anymore. Like, we're not going to jeopardize your career. We'll grant you your free agency that you can sign with the one he signed with the Braves last year. Semi-productive, he's with a playoff run, and then this year he signed with the Marlins on a free agent contract, and he started, playing, obviously because of the COVID situation, Jorge Alfaro wasn't starting for the team, so he got in there, but then another concussion came to him. He finishes out this year with just 62 plate appearances, was productive in that time, but does call it a career. I mean, as you joked, maybe this is more for me than you. Yeah, I did enjoy Cervelli's tenure. He was a productive catcher. Injuries obviously derailed a lot of his production for the Pirates, but I was also one that I just enjoyed his personality. I know a lot of people got, I'm not going to say fed up, but it kind of turned off some people around Pittsburgh. His antics, if you may. I loved it. I mean, what catcher has the balls to always argue and yell at the umpires when they're trying to get calls on the other end? I don't know. I enjoyed Cervelli in his time. I don't know. What about you?
No, I agree. I think towards the beginning of his Pirates career, I enjoyed him a little bit more than towards the end, and a lot of it just had to do with the injuries. It was time for him to either just move positions or something, and he was pretty stubborn about sticking a catcher. No, but I mean, he was just, it was kind of cool because Cervelli he came right after Russell Martin.
Big
who
shoes
was
to fill there.
Another guy though that was like the Yankees cast off, and the Pirates found knew this thing about him. It was, what was cool about this was back when the Pirates were smart, right? They acquired Cervelli knowing, hey, they were like, hey, this guy needs to play more, basically. Like we see, like we know this guy is good. He needs to be playing more than he is. And it was the same deal with Russell Martin, same deal with Cervelli. And that 2015 season that he had with the Pirates was like truly it was a special season. Like there were talks that Francisco Cervelli could be team MVP, and that was when Andrew McCutchen had like an amazing year. So that was a 98 win team that he was on. And he was in the discussion for the best player on that team. So that was great to see. I mean, if you look at, I've got a Fangraphs page up, and his defensive statistics for 2015 and 2016 are, I'm kind of mind blown just even going back and looking at those. We talk about Stallings being a good defensive catcher, but geez, Cervelli was in another league, right?
Yeah.
And he was so valuable to this team, and he was productive as a hitter. He got on base a lot. He didn't really hit for a ton of power in his first few seasons with the Pirates, but he got on base, played great defense. And yeah, he's a likable guy. Like he's somebody where if you're watching the game, he had a personality, and that's something that you want to see. So yeah, he was definitely an enjoyable person to watch. It just kind of came his time where the injuries, how much longer could you do this for? And I think we started seeing signs of that in his last year or two with the Pirates. It was like, okay, we need to make sure that this guy's going to have a life after baseball. He really needs to kind of watch it.
Exactly.
So yeah, it definitely disheartening, to see him go, because he's a fun guy to watch. He wasn't my favorite player, but I liked him. I enjoyed watching him play, and yeah, it'll be sad not being able to watch him anymore. He was one of the more underrated players play during his career, and I think that just shows with just how much playing time he got in his first 6-7 years in the majors. He was productive, and he just didn't play as much as he probably should have.
Right. And part of it, I think, is, I mean, the Pirates benefited because the Yankees had such a pipeline of catchers too. And like you said, the Russell Martin was the cast off, which, I mean, he wasn't being productive. That's part of the reason for him. It was more of him and his performance and less of the actual true pipeline, I guess. But like with Cervelli, it was kind of thing like he was fighting for playing time. He couldn't really get any. And it benefited the Pirates. So, and I thought so, and I looked it up, and yeah, I mean, think about this. It was a trade with Justin Wilson. Like the Pirates traded reliever Justin Wilson and got Francisco Cervelli. So yes, back when the Pirates were good. What a win. You trade Justin Wilson, who in that year he was traded to the Yankees, 61 innings, had a 3.10 ERA, 2.69 FIP. I mean, that's productive numbers, but again, that's just a reliever. The Pirates got basically like a 6-WAR player at a catching position. So yeah, right off the bat, what a win. I think like with Cervelli, we were pounding the table here for how many years? I can't tell you. Probably since he got traded over. Like Cervelli at leadoff. I wanted to see it. Because like you said, like his bat was productive, but it's much different. It wasn't so much power, but he got on base quite a bit, especially when he was healthy. But I just felt like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't really have favorite players except for Juan Soto. I just enjoy players and stuff. And to me, like with Cervelli, he just always seemed like he was one of us. Like he was just a down to earth dude who you could probably just see and hang out and have a good time with. Full of personality, again, with a sport that craves it. He had it. And it was just funny, again, because the position he played was a catcher. And he wasn't afraid to tell the umpire, his feelings and his thoughts, and then go back out there and try to catch for his pitcher and get calls from that same umpire for his pitcher. So I felt that to be kind of funny. Yeah, I mean, here's a little video of
so they walk the tightrope
him having
get
a
out of
chat
it.
with the umpire.
Billy Strand 2 in the second. Delayed chatter here. Cervelli talking over with Larry Vanover.
I'm sure it's nothing. They're just having a conversation now. This isn't an argument, so we'll be back.
They get along.
So again, I mean, that's, his pitchers out there. And he fought for his pitchers. I mean, that's good. But again, it's just kind of funny. Like, this guy's a catcher and you're trying to get the umpire on your side. He made every game interesting.
That was fun. Yeah. No, it was again, he was a fun guy to watch. Him being away. I kind of liked what the Pirates did last year with him, where they let him go, to try to go to the playoffs, and I bet he probably appreciated that. So I could see Cervelli being one of those guys who comes back and he could be a fun retired player who contributes somehow to this team in the future. Maybe not necessarily as a coach or something, but I think he's actually trying to get into coaching. So I don't know, he could be a guy, maybe you shove him in the minors and just kind of let him coach some teams. I don't know. It would be fun to see him back in the organization.
That's exactly what I was going to pivot this next to, because you're right. So he retires and he does say how, I mean, he still has a love for the game. It appears he wants to be part of it. And like you said, coaching likely. Catchers make some pretty good coaches and managers, it seems. So, he has that, you would feel, mentality and such. He's learned a lot in the game. So, I mean, there's a possibility of that in the future. And I would say, yeah, I mean, obviously he spent more years of the organization of the Yankees and such, but I would probably more or less call him a Pirate if you look over his career. If you were to head into a Hall of Fame, it probably would be the Pirates on his hat. So, I think there would probably be an inside track with the Pirates organization if he were to choose in that sense. Do you see a fit here? Like you said, maybe, I guess, stashing in the minors. But I'm also thinking, too, because this is a guy who does have a really, really fun personality. He tends to enjoy the camera, if you may. The ladies tend to enjoy him in front of the camera also. So I don't know. It is maybe also potential, not so much coaching, but just being in the organization, maybe a TV gig, maybe something like that.
Potentially. I don't know. The one thing about a TV gig is, I mean, it's not that he doesn't speak English well. It's just the accent is pretty heavy. So I don't know if that would play on TV as well. like over the course of, like a game, or with like a pregame or a postgame thing. So that I could see maybe being an issue for some people, but I think I did see something the other day where he actually, would like to coach. So I saw that, but I think that's probably his next step. And I mean, I'm sure he's got plenty of connections around baseball. So I mean, he played Major League Baseball for 13 years, so he knows people. People know him, and played in 4 different organizations. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I guess I could see is he wasn't a Cherington guy, so I don't know if that may have an issue with him coming back to the Pirates as in a coaching role.
Right.
But no, I don't think we've heard the last of Francisco Cervelli. Like I have a feeling that he'll be around.
Bless me. I'm getting them JT
Bless
Riddle
you.
blessings.
Bless you. Just like the 60-game season.
There it is. So yeah, I like it. So Francisco Cervelli retires, and I'm with you too. I doubt we've seen the last of him. Kind of excited to see where his next step will be, and I guess to follow that career path. But yeah, so that pretty much wraps it up. That's pretty much all the happenings in the Pirates organization right now. We are still amidst the postseason play, and then once that's over and the real offseason starts, I'm sure there'll be a lot more action. Fingers crossed, Jim. Much more action this year in the offseason for the Pirates that we can talk about. But yeah, so anything you wanted to add here before we go?
No, another 4-game day today, or 8-game day. Another 8-game day today. So if you want to watch baseball, it'll be on all day.
Buy yourself another TV.
Be
like Jim
TV.
And have 3 on a wall, and there you have no problems. You can watch every game. You don't have to worry about flipping.
I mean, last night I could watch both baseball games and the NBA Finals.
See, how about that?
Yeah.
There you go. And then on Sundays, you can watch it and have Red Zone on. And that way you can potentially, be in the midst of like 10 or 11 games.
Exactly.
I like it. All right. Well, I'll watch TV on my one and laptop when I want an extra game. So with that said,
that works too.
We will be back tomorrow night. So as mentioned before, Thursdays, we are renewing our NS9 Jeopardy. Tomorrow night is our first episode. 3 contestants going. Tune in Thursday, 9 p.m. right here. We'll see y'all then. Bye-bye.
Bye.